So do you have some artwork that you can share today?
I'm going to walk you through my, not my commercial art, but my fine art, if you will, if there is such a thing anymore. And I studied under Nita Engel, and Nita Engel and I had the same background. She was an art director in Chicago. And so she kind of taught me how to paint transparent watercolor.
Oh, I see.
And these are examples of going back a number of years of, in fact, this was from one of her workshops. We were in a canoe, and this was part of it. I was standing up in the canoe taking photos from that
Yeah,
trip.
nice.
So anyway, this that is my traditional uh, uh, bread and butter kind of artwork. And then I went to I I took the a little bit from the commercial side. So this is actually from the commercial side. I was able to uh, emulate or ape a lot of illustrators. So I need I'm an art director. I need a style like this, but this guy's busy, so maybe this guy can do something like it. Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is, I'm more on the graphic side. I consider myself more of a designer than a painter. And so this is kind of a series where it's I call them dreamscapes because there are shapes within a shape. And
Right.
these look simple, but they're difficult to design. So that was a progression from there. Here I started using ink
Uh-huh.
and different surfaces, and I would paint it in waterproof ink first. And then, in fact, I had an article a year and a half, a couple of years ago in Watercolor Artist using ink first. And then you can light it any way you want, basically, and you can paint it with watercolor
Wow.
because the ink is waterproof. And
Right.
this is much more graphic. This is what I like. This is another iteration of just being graphic. These were all done with a palette knife or a piece of mat board. You could say credit card. It seems to be popular right now. And instead of putting the paint on a brush, you squeeze it out on a credit card or a palette knife, and then you wet the paper in certain areas, and then you swipe across it.
Wow.
And these trees, I did not paint any of those trees. They were formed by drips.
Really?
I swiped through here with an orange, a brown, a purple, and something else. Anyway, and then I wet it. I sprayed it. This obviously was not sprinkled. This was wet up here. This whole top part was wet. And these drips, I turned it upside down, and these drips came off of this area, and they it painted those trees by themselves.
Wow.
I had nothing to do with painting those trees. And the same thing here. I painted with a palette knife and the paint right on the palette knife. Uh, and the same with this. This was a horizontal swipe, and then I swiped here, and I actually painted these. I painted this whole thing with a card or a palette knife. So anyway,
Wow. That's amazing.
that's another style, if you will. And then I went to this. I was looking for something even simpler, so I started using acrylic ink, and I only use two colors. I use sepia and indigo. And this is actually the first one that I did. And I liked it so much that I actually just drew these. I painted these with the stopper that comes with the ink. And I would make a line like this curved line going across here. And then I would just spray this area, and that would blow up. And because it's water media, it would have all these textures to them. So I found it quite exciting actually to paint that way. And this
Yeah.
was done the same way. I did this line, and then with a blue ink, and then I sprayed this area, this shape, and I could lift out some of these edges to represent distant trees or whatever. Uh, and this is the same way. Here you can see that this line was just drawn with the stopper that comes with the ink. And this is a lot of granulation that happens with that ink, which is what I was looking for. That's the key to the whole deal for me. Anyway, so that's another another style.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
uh,
yeah, so I can see that you've been experimenting all different
I love to
yeah,
experiment. I call my classes labs.
yeah,
Anyway, these are imaginaries, so I like landscapes basically, and these are just made up. And if we have time, I'll paint a quick one for you today along this uh, line, where the top third, 2/3 is just wet and wet. The bottom third is wet on dry and dry on dry. And again, this one's just using two colors, a warm and a cool.
yeah.
In fact, that's the workshop that's coming up. Here are the examples of those that I've done in previous workshops. It's just ultramarine and uh, burnt sienna.
Okay,
That's all it is. And you can get these beautiful neutrals out of it.
yeah,
So you can change it. So I change everything from frame to frame. Anyway, and
beautiful.
in conclusion, these are something I've been playing with lately as far as acrylic inks, but uh, using them as not using painting them with a dropper, but painting them so it's waterproof when it dries.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I can put watercolor on top of it.
I see. So
So
those
this is
the
my,
acrylics dry fast, right? So the acrylic inks dry fast too?
the acrylic inks dry pretty fast. This was done with indigo and burnt umber, I believe. And these paint very fast. This is only about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes of painting, and then a few minutes of putzing with it. And this is an example of just a two color. And this is what this next workshop that I'm running this ad for is basically this. And that's the same two colors, and it's very clean and very crisp. And I can leave this alone, or I can put watercolor on top.
Wow, that's
And
nice.
the last one would be this guy, and it's back to the same kind of thing. You can such beautiful neutrals happen, and just painting with watercolor, you get all
Yeah.
this beautiful stuff that you don't have to paint. In fact,
Wow.
that's what Nita Engel taught me: is you only have to paint half a painting. The
Did you
biggest
use some kind of reference photographs for
oh
this?
yes, I use photos, but I know how to draw. Number one biggest failure for not just watercolor is drawing skills. The most important
Yeah,
thing is knowing how to draw, and
right.
then you can paint. And
Yeah.
I'm all about shapes and values. It's not about the color; it's about the value of the color. So that's what it is for me, and that's why I love to paint in ink. Just black and white is
Uh-huh.
great fun.
Yeah.
And that led me to this, which is you're familiar with this. That's what I just posted, I think.
So with two colors. So you're using only two colors. Is that also burnt
I'm only using
sienna and ultramarine, did you say?
that's this is burnt umber and ultramarine, or no,
Okay.
this one with the inks. This is indigo
Oh, indigo
and
ink
burnt umber.
and burnt umber
Right.
watercolor or acrylic?
Oh, this is acrylic ink.
Oh, acrylic
So
ink.
this is ready for watercolor. If I choose to put more color on here, I can.
Okay, but this one you just use the acrylic ink
Correct.
of
Because
those
it's
two colors.
yes, and I use the acrylic ink. It's because it's waterproof.
Right.
The same as ink. We've done the same thing with Sharpies.
Yeah, right.
Anything that's waterproof, you could use.
Uh-huh.
Uh, then you can apply color to it if you so desire. So
Yeah. Have you tried like use acrylic ink with with regular ink? Do they react pretty well?
Yes, anything that's water soluble you can use. And I
Uh-huh.
use my good brushes.
Yeah.
I just make sure that I keep them wet and I keep them clean and I wash them out when I get done with it. So I have no qualms at all. If I use mask, I use my good brushes. Nita Engel used mask a lot, and it's very important. So do not use your old crappy brushes. What you're doing when you're using mask is you're painting light,
Right.
and that's the most important part of the painting.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
right.
you want to use your best brushes, not your worst brushes.
Right. Yeah. That's a good tip. I actually, yeah.
Well, I have everybody. In fact, we did that in class today because we were painting volcanoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had them, you can mask at any time. You don't have to mask on white paper. You can put color on it and then dry it and then mask it. So you protect that bright color, and then you can flood darker color on top, take the mask off, and you have this volcano, yellow, orange, red.
Right. So
I'm
yeah, you can do some quick demonstration actually. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to use I'm going to use Mr. Gravity. This is just I cannot paint watercolor flat. It doesn't. That's counterproductive to painting watercolor. I
Right.
want to paint.
It has to flow somewhere. Yeah.
It has to move. Yes,
Right.
and I just used this for this. I'm using this little sauce dish, and here's some burnt sienna, and here's some ultramarine, and I can mix neutrals up here. Just to show you, I do a lot of these in black and white, and they're just no-ton. I'm a big believer in no-ton, and so I will just work out my designs here. And you were asking about it. This is my normal palette.
Uh-huh.
In fact, that's from the volcanoes this morning. But uh, here's an example of some of these things that uh, are I call imaginaries, because I have nothing in mind when I paint these. When I start these, I have zero in my head. I just know that the top 2/3 is going to be wet on wet, and the bottom third is going to be wet on dry. And there's an example of one. Here's an example of other ones. I had no idea what I was going to do when I painted it. I painted the top, and this beautiful stuff that happens with watercolor uh, just happens, and I take advantage of that. And the same here, and these go very quickly. So I don't know whether it's going to be uh, wherever the location is. And just so you know, you might be interested in this because this is what I have evolved to over decades of painting. I always wanted to see, because of watercolor and these blooms and all these little things that it gives you that you cannot paint. The watercolor will paint those for you. I actually took one of these, and I'll show you when I go back to uh, share the screen. I blew one of these up to 30 by 40, and I'll show that to you later. But first, I want to just show you how I paint these if you want.
Oh, sure.
Okay. The first thing I'll do is I'm just going to wet the top
Mm-hmm.
2/3 of the paper. And I'll just take it down to about right there. And then I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to take some blue of my, this is my ultramarine, and I'm going to paint this very simply. And this is the way I teach people to paint. It's bigger brushes, smaller paper. I do not paint this way. I paint this way. The fewer the strokes, the better it turns out, at least for me. So look at that. It's painting itself.
Yeah.
It's painting that sky all by itself. How cool is that?
Wow,
And
you're
I'm going to
just
put it,
using the natural law of gravity.
yes, I'm just using gravity. And so I just did a swipe there, and that's going to go down to wherever this ends. I'm going to use a little of the brown, my burnt sienna, and I'm just going to go right through here like this, and see what that gives me. And I'm going to just rough that up a little bit. In fact, I think I'll make a little mark here, so I'm going to leave an area where I can slide in to that open space.
I really like the sky.
Yeah. And what did I do? I did one stroke.
I know. Now it's beautiful. Wow.
Well, we all make it too hard,
I know.
and especially if you're painting with watercolor, it's take advantage of it. I'm going to put some dark in here, and I'm going to put a tree right
Is
here.
that a watercolor or ink?
This is just watercolor.
Oh, you're just using watercolor now. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm painting as it dries. You can see that it's kind of painting itself, while it's still wet. And I can go back and I can put in some trees here.
What are you using now?
Just a palette knife, a poor man's palette knife.
Oh,
It's from Michael's. It's like $3 or something.
wow.
Anyway, so I can do that, and so that is just emulating some trees happening back there, a tree line. For whatever reason, I'm going to just put something weird back there. And I don't know what is happening here, but I'm going to leave that sky alone because I really like that sky.
Yeah, that's nice sky out there.
Also, while this is still damp, I can actually lift this too. So there I've lifted. I don't have to scrape it. I can actually lift it. So
Uh-huh.
now I've got this little tree line going on through here.
Yeah.
And I haven't really done I haven't done anything. I just get it started and the watercolor just paints itself. So
Yeah,
that's what
now I
so
can see some distant trees there.
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it all happens while it's drying. So anyway, and now that looks believable. That looks like that far hill back there. It
You
looks
already finished about half of the painting.
well. I've finished the top half.
The top half is done. Wow, that's
And
really
now I'm going to
nice.
take the bottom half, and that's basically a blue sky. So I'm going to use kind of a warm neutral at the bottom. And this is all nice and soft.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to do something that's wet on dry, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I absolutely don't know what. I know I have a dark mass over here, so maybe I'll just do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And see, just that fast. I've got a little scene,
Yeah.
and this is what just fascinates me about watercolor. And now I can take my palette knife if I want, and I can, while that's still wet, I can put some weeds in there. I can take that combination of those two colors, that brown and the blue, and I can make a great neutral out of it. I can make this great black color. So I could I could do some negative painting if I wanted to. Put in some rocks. I could also melt some of this if I wanted to. Just by a damp brush. So that gives me that little wet and wet to just pick a little bit of that stuff happening back up front. I like that better. And now I could add some color if I wanted to. I could add make orange in here or do whatever I wanted to do. I could also do all the usual techniques that you do when you paint watercolor. To me, it's about the design. These balance each other now. I'm going to try to put a little spatter right through here. So that adds a nice little addition, I think.
Uh-huh.
And then I think, and I don't have to use the normal stuff. I could use, I can use anything I want. If I wanted to, I use this gray pencil, and maybe I'll just put this fence line coming in here.
Wow.
And let's see, what else could you do?
Wow, it's nice.
There's so many things that you could do with this. It really is just kind of amazing. I want to put just a little bit of I want to make a connection here. So maybe that is maybe that's a tree. Maybe that tree is, yeah, that's what it is. I'm just going to make one of these trees. I'm going to make this tree come down. Into the image. Just to kind of connect that little part. And then if I wanted to, as Sargent says, I'm going to use white paint. If it's okay with him, it's okay with me. So if I just maybe just right along the edge here,
Uh-huh.
just those little things right here, they make a difference.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to just try to clip that so this comes forward and this goes on over. And so there we have our, I am going to just do one more thing. This guy's a little lonely here, so I'm going to put a, and there's always one more thing, huh? Anyway, I think that's probably enough putzing. I think I want another dark something. I don't know what that is. I don't care. I think it just balances it. And then we can get rid of this stuff, and we can take the tape off, and then I think we'll have a little painting. At least we can decide if we do. And we can make an informed decision about what to do next, if anything.
Wow. It's
So
very nice and clean. Yeah.
there we have
That's beautiful.
there we have a just a little study, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't make any difference. It's just fun, and we did
Yeah.
it we did it in just a few minutes. I used a white pencil. How about that?
Okay.
And I could do that in here. Just I could make a couple of leaves in here, and that actually is kind of interesting. There we go. It's amazing how believable they end up looking.
Yeah. Nice foreground and the distant mountain or hill or whatever.
Yeah, and you saw me paint it. It just paints itself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that whole background, especially that top part, just painted itself.
Yeah. You just finished that in less than 10 minutes, I guess. Thank you so much for quick demo and sharing your
Oh,
all
you're
these
very
nice
welcome.
tips. To find Joe Cibere's upcoming art workshop, go to the Workshop Finder website, workshop-finder.com. Here's the Workshop Finder, where you see art workshops, photography workshops and tours, writing workshops, and music workshops. So we're going to click on art workshops. Then you see all the workshops listed by their months, year-round listings first. April. And here's Joe's workshop coming up in April 10th. Loosen up with the two colors to get more info. When you click the button, you go to Joe's own website, Joe Cibere watercolors. And here's Loosen Up with Two Colors, Saturday, April 10th. So this is where you can sign up for the workshop. Thank you so much again, and see you soon.